Let's go.
Hi, guys, and welcome back to the Backstage Bikini podcast with your hosts, Grace and Jade. And this week, we have someone very familiar to Grace and I, and very familiar to myself. We have a coach on who is responsible for, well, navigating my ship for one thing. But he's a well-known bikini coach bodybuilding coach in the UK. We have Mr. Jake Watts on, amplified nutrition coach, head coach. Have I missed anything? Therapist,
Bodybuilder. Oh, and he also
I'll take
has a
bodybuilder,
full-time
Grace.
job.
I'll take that one. I'm still not sure. I
Well,
class
this is what
myself
I
as a
want to talk
bodybuilder.
about before we get into the nitty-gritties of bikini, as I suppose your own journey, because I think it's incredible the fact that you obviously are the coach that you are. You work a job. I don't know if many people do know that. And you are a good bodybuilder in my eyes. I think you
I'm
maintain
an all right bodybuilder. I'll take the
yeah.
compliment.
He's a
Like
great
what?
men's wellness guy.
That if that was a class, I reckon I'd be good at that. I'd
You
class
nail
it.
it.
Well, I think it's so impressive how you're able to manage it all, and like your team of athletes has only just grown in the last year and a half. Like you're becoming really, really well known in the bikini space. So how do you manage it all? Because like people make excuses left, right, and center as to why they can't do things, and like you're working two busy jobs while after like looking after your own goals. Like, how do you manage it all?
Chaos. It is carnage. Yeah, and Grace, you're right. Not a lot of people do know that. And every time I always do some kind of podcast and it comes up, I always end up getting a few messages after where people go, "Oh my God, you've got a full-time job as well." Because I'm just not somebody who really just I'm not what's the right word? I'm not somebody who gloats about it. Like, the way I see it is everyone has a choice to do what they want in life, and I don't think, you know, I don't look down at somebody who doesn't work as hard as me, just as I don't necessarily think that somebody that doesn't work as hard as me should look up to me. The way I see it is we're all different. Okay. We all like different things. There'll be some people that work at Tesco that are happy and they live life and they love their life and they're happy with that. So I think everyone has what they enjoy in life and what they want to do. And for me, my drive and ambition is I just always want to be better. I always want to be at the top of my game in everything I do. And I know we joke about the bodybuilder thing, but like, I do try and be at the absolute best of my game when it comes to that, as well as, if I'm a coach, I want to be able to provide the best service I possibly can. And as a coach, if I'm a prep coach, then, my goal is to win things. So I've always had a drive and ambition to want to be the best at everything I do. So I'm probably quite competitive in that sense, but it doesn't come from a stance of ego. It just comes from a point of that's just me as an individual. But it is carnage to manage it. Yeah, like I've kind of it's one of them things where I started coaching probably 6 years ago now. And you start at the bottom. So, you kind of start to amalgamate having 5 clients in when you run a full-time job, and that soon becomes 10, and you get adjusted to that, and that soon becomes 15. And then to be honest with you, I kind of probably about up until 2 years ago kind of found myself here, and I was like, well, I'm still managing this. I wake up every day at the same time. I have a routine every day. I tick off what I need to tick off, and I just manage it. And like I always really wish that I could sit here and tell people that there's this big secret formula that I have to the success that I have, but I don't. I just have a routine that I stick to every day. I'm consistent, and I know what I want from life and I know what I want to achieve. And in order for me to be able to do that, these are the things that I have to do every day. And I do get to the point of times when I do burn out, and that does happen, just like everyone gets to them stages at some point. But as I say, the way I see it is, for me, I just want to continue to be better. And for me, going backwards isn't an option. So, if I'm going to be in a position where I'm gonna go to full-time coaching, which that is going to eventually come. I feel like I have to be absolutely at the top of my game, before I'm able to do that. Like, I don't want to. I'm not one of these people that wants to go like, I'm just gonna take the leap now and, hope I can get my coaching up there. Like, I want to be able to go, I can drop my job and I'm at the top of my game now already.
Yeah.
So, like I say, I don't have the secret. I just have a drive and ambition. I'm relentless. And I just want to, without sounding too cliche, I just want to get shit done.
Yeah.
And
Honestly, it's mental.
I
I
strive off it as well. Like I strive
mm,
off of people doing well, like, and if I can help people achieve their goals as well, then I just love that. Like I just get a buzz
yeah.
off of it. You both will have seen what I'm like,
Yeah.
when it comes to shows and stuff, like what I'm like I absolutely buzz off of it. Like I love it.
Nobody screams louder. Nobody
Yeah.
screams louder
Just
than
passion.
you.
Whenever I see like a show that I'm at and I've got somebody in, like, say if there's a class of gals and I've got a gal in that class and there's 10 gals there, like, and it's someone else's video, there's always me in the background shooting. It's always me.
I love
Because
that
I just love it.
passion.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think, you've just said the word, Grace, when you say, like, when you talk about passion,
Mhm.
like I always say, like, to me it doesn't feel like work sometimes because I love it.
Mm.
Like if you're doing something that you love every day, it doesn't feel like work. So,
Yeah.
although it is busy and there is times when I look at my phone and I'm like, Jesus Christ, but I'm like, but I love this. Like
Yeah.
I have a passion for it, I don't wake up every day and think I hate this.
Yeah.
And if you've got a passion for something, then, you're just going to keep going because you keep enjoying it. When you enjoy something, you keep doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you enjoy it, it doesn't feel like work a lot of the time for me
Mhm.
anyway.
And something that I'm always interested in is like, do they impact each other? Like, does your work stress impact, the coaching business, or vice versa, or your bodybuilding get impacted as a result of the competing and all of it combined?
I think so. The thing is, for me, it's a great question, and I think actually, I would say this over the last year, my bodybuilding career has definitely been impacted as a result of work, and that's not in a way that, like, I don't tick the boxes, but it's what I've really seen, and a lot of people won't necessarily have seen this, but for me, when I look at my physique now, like, although I still don't miss a trick when it comes to meals, training. But what I really start to see is where stress and sleep really hinders me from a growing standpoint. That's when I really, the last year is where I've probably noticed it. Like I won't allow, and you both will know this from coaching, like I won't allow my service from a coaching standpoint to dip.
No.
So that's number one. That's priority because that's my bread and butter. That's what pays my bills. So I won't allow that to slip. So, that's my priority. My full-time job, my full-time job is quite easy. I've got a very good job, but I've done it for so long now that I can almost do it with my eyes closed. So that kind of comes as a
I think you
close
can.
second. That kind of comes as a close second, and then the bodybuilding thing just comes last for me. As much as I love it, like I'm also, when we say career, I don't have a career in bodybuilding. I have a career in coaching within bodybuilding. But I'm not deluded to the fact that I'm never going to be a pro. I also don't really want to be a pro. The bodybuilding part is a hobby for me as much as, I still want to make sure I tick all the boxes every day. If there's something that has to suffer as a result, then it's definitely that.
I think there's always something as well, isn't there? I mean, if you actually look at bodybuilding itself, like for everything that you gain, there is a sacrifice somewhere that you kind of have
100%.
to compensate somewhere because nobody can give 110% to absolutely everything in their life consistently, no matter what. There's always something that has to give. So it's interesting, to be honest, Jake, to hear. Well, it's not surprising, but it is interesting to hear that you've chosen your individual goals in bodybuilding as a sacrifice of sorts. Obviously, you're still very much in it and you still very much walk and talk like a bodybuilder, but your goals in bodybuilding have took a backseat to compensate for your clients' goals. Like, has that always been the case?
Yeah, definitely. I think it has actually, Jay, to be honest with you. But I think I've never really, because and Grace, like Grace said, probably the last 2 years is where I've really started to become very well known, and which is when I've obviously become busier. So it's never really felt too much of a struggle before. But I also think maybe, I don't know if delusion's the right word, but maybe, a few 5 years back, I probably kind of thought that this could be a bit more of a, a thing for me. Whereas, I think it's just come to the realistic terms that, once I've actually done a few proper off seasons, and realized that the capability is just not there. And actually that there's just no ambition to go that bit further, in terms of a pro status. It just doesn't appeal to me anymore. So, but I think you raise a really good point actually around the sacrifice part. It is actually almost, I would say, impossible to give 110% to the sport, from start to finish. And when I say start to finish, going all the way to stage, and something not sacrifice. And I actually think too many people are, probably back to the word I just said, deluded to the fact that they think that they can do that and that not be the case.
Because the sooner you can get a grip of that, I think, as an athlete anyway, like if you've got athletic goals anyway, but that whole principle itself carries into everything. And I know it's cliche, but like the lessons you learn and things like that, as being an athlete and being involved in the sport, all of it's transferable. And I think the sooner you can realize that you can't give everything to everything all at once, all of the time, it'll prevent the burnout inevitably, but like burning out, but just it'll make you more efficient in what you want to do. And obviously, like looking at your career, Jake, and like seeing where you are now, that's point and case in terms of where you actually are. In terms of your career and coaching, did you ever think you would have a roster of bikini girls like you have?
Never,
was that ever the goal?
never in a million years. And I'm not just, and I will go into that in a second, but never in a million years. But actually, like, and I'm genuinely not just saying it. I wouldn't change it. I genuinely wouldn't. I wouldn't change it. Definitely not. Honestly, Jade, I never even saw where I am now, this being the case. To me, it started out as like, it was about, I think 2015 was when I first competed. And then I kind of started PTing some people at the gym, and I was like, I actually quite enjoy this. And, then it started to kind of be, well, you'll do people's diets alongside it. And it just kind of escalated from there. And then, I started coaching kind of people, getting them in shape for like, holidays and stuff. And then I was like, I've got a hobby for competing. Could I also learn how to do and go all the way? And then, you then have one person, and then one person does well, and then you have a second person, and the second person does well. And then, and it just kind of all lifted off from there. If you'd have said to me 5 years ago, would this be what I never dreamed of this? Like I dreamed of coaching and helping a lot of people. Did I expect to be in the position of coaching, the caliber of athletes that I have now? I coach in total I've got 6 pros now that I coach. I never in a million years would have ever thought that. So, but like I say, I wouldn't change it.
Unreal. And I suppose going back to 2015, way back when, it was only a baby.
That's
age away there.
Nearly 10 years ago. Jesus.
Like, what has changed then for you in terms of like your own bodybuilding and even coaching? Like, has anything changed, like views wise? Obviously bikini is like still quite new, so when you got into that, like, because we talked to a lot of coaches on the podcast, and like I suppose their practices and how things have kind of changed over the years as bikini has become more new. Like, how has that evolved for you in your own goals and also coaching your athletes?
So much, so different. And I believe I will always say that, when you do a job like this, you're always learning. There's things that I still learn now. I'm not a know-it-all. I'll always openly sit here and say I'm not the most knowledgeable guy in the world. I've got a great knowledge, but there is far more knowledgeable people out there in the coaching world than me. But I don't believe knowledge isn't everything. Experience and being able to do so much more things from a coaching standpoint is way more important. One thing that I don't think is really, people really take into consideration, is just even things like social skills with people and communication. Like that goes so far for me, like so far, especially amongst the females. But back to your point, Grace, about how it's changed. Like, I remember my first prep, I pretty much for about 8 weeks straight was being fed whitefish and green beans, 6 meals a day for weeks on end.
Yeah.
You know, being taught just some of the practices back then of what, you know, we was given to do because that was, you know, you was told that was the right thing to do. You know, I remember being about 10 weeks out and my coach at the time seeing me eating salted rice cakes and telling me that I shouldn't be having salted ones, I should be having plain ones because I'd hold water. You know, and at the time I didn't know nothing. I'm like, really, hold water? And I'm thinking, hold water? I'm 10 weeks out. What do you mean? How can I hold water 10, like, you know? So so much has changed since then, you know. And even for me, you know, the way I prep people, I was actually having a conversation with someone the other day, like, you know, how I prep someone or each year is different, you know. Like, for example, someone like if we use Emily as an example, or even, you know, Marnie this year will be different as well. Like how I've prepped each of those gals every single time they've been on stage is different, you know, because you will learn new things based on their response. You know, there's things that you will do that you will play something safe because you've not done it before, you know, but then something else might happen. You know, there's how many times have you seen people where, you know, someone's played something safe into a show and then the night of show they've gone and eaten loads of fats and then the next day they've woken up and they look fantastic. But you wouldn't, I'm not somebody who will ever take a risk like that to someone's show day. You know, there's so much has changed, and I think, like I say, you'll continue to learn as you go through the stages with everyone, what works and what's different. But the whole thing, everything is different now. You know, as I say, some of the protocols that I would have used 5 years ago compared to what I would use now is just totally different. Because everyone, you just trial new things and you do different things and you hear someone's tried something this way. You know, an example is something like fat loading. Fat loading was never a thing 5 years ago. You wouldn't people most bodybuilding coaches 10 years ago wouldn't even have guys on fats at all. You know, or even gals, you know, I'm sure probably when there's been times when you both have been prepped or dieted with people and you've been basically taken down to no fats, you know.
Never been fat loaded ever.
Yeah,
No.
but there was some, yeah, and that's, you know, some coaches will fat load now. You know, so, and that wasn't even a thing years ago. So yeah, the whole thing, everything changes. But also I think you'll have so many different coaches that will deploy different things. You know, and that's ultimately a lot of the time which will separate the good coaches from the bad coaches.
Yeah,
as
I
well.
think you said it there. It's about taking the risk, and some coaches maybe are not willing to take the risk. And I suppose with bikini, like there is not as much big risk because there's not as much muscle tissue. But have you found now that obviously working with much higher level athletes that you are more inclined to go that extra mile, like with taking the risk? Like obviously Marnie's pro card and Emily's was a big one, or do you kind of play it safe in those circumstances?
Yeah, it's different. It's difficult because me and Marnie were actually talking about like protocols and stuff the other day, actually. You know, so like how I prepped her into the Ben Weeder when she won our pro card, you know, and then how I prepped her into Pittsburgh and into New York were, you know, they were fairly similar models. But what we actually one of the days in Pittsburgh after she competed, you know, after she went and had loads of peanut butter and quite a lot of fats, and then all of a sudden the next day she woke up and she looked fantastic. You know, just coming back, I kind of mentioned that earlier, like I would never have deployed that method on show day, but you know, would I potentially in one of our first shows when we go into this year, based on that learning that we took last year, deploy something similar? Absolutely. You know, again, I've had gals where I'm not usually, as a rule, tend to be a big feeder on show day, as an example. You know, whereas I had Jasmine this year where she had about 1,500 calories of food before she went on stage, because we was assessing the look on the week building up, and the more and more food we put in, the better and better she looked. Whereas someone like Emily, for example, like I will starve Emily mostly on show day. You know, so it's just totally different. And every single time I prep someone, honestly, I don't think I could say, apart from like back-to-back shows, like in the same kind of few weeks, I can't think that I've prepped someone the same every year, where they've done multiple shows, just because, you know, we'll trial some things different each time and do it. But coming back to where you say about taking risks, Grace, in terms of some of the setups, probably for me, I would rather play it safe than I always say, like, things like taking a risk, you have a 50% chance of it going wrong and a 5% of it going better. I'd rather play it safe than take the 5%.
Yeah.
for sure.
Because at the end of the day, at that point as well, like the athlete's been prepping for what, 18, 20, 22 weeks. They're almost there. Unless you know it's a dead cert that it's going to produce a better result if it's the one show or even the second show. That's their chance to showcase their work, I suppose.
I'd care too much to fuck that up.
Yeah, 100%. And in terms of like, obviously you have different levels of athletes in terms of who you're working with, Jake, as well. From a muscularity standpoint, we'll get into this wider in terms of any challenges that bikini athletes tend to face coming into the sport, being in the sport now compared to 5-8 years ago. But would there be a bigger manipulation or bigger room for risk taking, depending on the kind of athlete you're dealing with in terms of how frequently they've competed, whether they've come to you fresh out of a prep, for example? So I know you've had a few clients come to you sort of in their reverse and wanting support there. Would your approach differ there depending on their presentation to you at that time?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and I think if you look at, you know, it's good to use people like Marnie and Emily as an example for those gals who have got, you know, denser muscle, who have been training for a long time. You know, so in my opinion, I mean, a bit different now, they're obviously pros, but, you know, as an example, you know, I talk about like Starve and Emily on show day, and I did very similar with Marnie the first time around, because the level of muscle that they both have compared to most of the gals that they will be stepping on stage with at that time, the higher probability is they have a lot more denser muscle. So the level of fullness that you need to push for those gals is very, very different to somebody who is a first timer athlete who hasn't necessarily got the same level of muscle. You know, and also I think, as you all know, Jade, and I think we've kind of touched on it before a little bit, Grace, but strategy for me is a big, big thing. I will always evaluate what shows I've got, what shows somebody has got, and potentially the level of athlete that I know is going into that show. Because it's so different. Like there's you know, I could put a gal on stage one week and she could bottom out and be no good because she looks too muscular and too conditioned, as an example, because of the level of athlete that is on stage with her. Whereas you could take that same gal and stick her in a pro qualifier and she fits in. And that's what I will stand by and say, it's, in my opinion, the hardest class to nail is bikini by far. When will you ever be in a situation where you stick a male bodybuilder or a male in any class on stage and their feedback is they're too conditioned?
It just doesn't happen.
It's never going to happen.
No,
it's not a thing. It's not a thing. So, you know,
or they're too big.
It's never going to happen. And so, you know, when you're prepping a guy, ultimately your goal is to get them as peeled and as inside out as you possibly can. Now, when it comes to a female, that's not the goal. That's never the goal, right? But also the risk you run, and when we talk about, Jade, when we talk about risks, you prep that girl and she turns up peeled. It's not going to be, do you know what, today, love, you're going to be second because you was a little bit too build. It's you're peeled, you're out the running.
You're last.
You're done. You're done.
You're
like,
out.
and you know, I'll openly say, like, I've done that. I've done that once. I got it wrong once last year with Jasmine. She looked fantastic, and I put her on stage, and she was on stage against natty gals that were softer. And she stood out like a sore thumb. And arguably, even if you stuck her in a pro qualifier, could she have been a little bit too conditioned? Maybe. But you put up, she literally, boom, they moved her straight out to the side of the lineup. And I was devastated. I cared more than she did. She was like, Jake, it doesn't matter. We've got the pro qualifier in a few weeks. Like, it's fine. I was devastated. But that you wouldn't get that in any other class.
No.
So trying to get that, and I think that's what a lot of coaches don't quite understand about bikini and the criteria. What they think is, I'm prepping you now, so I'm just going to get you as lean as I can get you. Whereas a good coach, like, and sometimes that can work, because a lot of the time, some of them maybe don't actually have the caliber to get someone shredded, so they end up almost hitting the mark unintentionally. Whereas
closing your eyes and throwing the dart.
Whereas for some people, like, you know, for some of the higher caliber coaches, trying to, although we have the capability to, we should have the more capability to land them people on that mark. Also, because you know the criteria so well, it's trying to just get it to that point. And the thing is as well, it's still so subjective. You know, we're so subjective, like, because, you know, judges, they all like different things. You know, and a bikini, again, like, strategy is so important. Yeah, you don't, you know, if you're prepping a male bodybuilder, you don't need to go, do you know what, we should probably avoid Europe because you don't have a European male bodybuilder look. Like, that's not a thing. That doesn't exist.
Stay out of classic, don't have a tash.
You know, that's not a thing, you know, like, you know, it's mad. It's mad when we talk about it. And I really don't think we will see it actually a big divide from the kind of Europe USA look this year, because we're getting a lot of USA judges that are coming over this way, which I think is great. But you know, I think when you look at the sport, when you look at the class, sorry, like, it does happen. I remember when was it, not last year before, Valeria, when she won her pro card in Romania, because I was there, she then did 3 pro shows back to back, and she won all 3 of them, all in Europe. And I remember even people like Adam even put him as a wild card in his top 10. He was like a wild card, top 10 of the Olympia. Out of 47 gals, she was in the last call out. And it just comes back to that point about being too conditioned and you just bottom out. Like,
and I always find it mad, like, how it just overrides even structure. Like, you could have everything. The best structure, and I think it happened to Lauralee, didn't it, on the Olympia year before last. Incredible. Too lean, she came 5th or whatever, wasn't it?
I think it was 7th.
And you can have the best structure on stage, the best glutes, and you have a little bit too much striations, you're out. It's mad.
It's literally crazy. So, you know, not only have we got to try and, as coaches and as athletes, right, not only have we got to try and land the mark to where we think is the right condition for that show, also, you could get it bang on, but if all the other people that are surrounded by you are not quite matching the criteria, that could hinder you as an athlete and as an individual. And luckily for me, whether it's luckily or whether it is by ability, I'll let everyone else decide that. But I've not really had that as a problem too much. Like, I you know, I like to, most times I have kind of pretty much got it right. Apart from the one time I just mentioned with Jazz, but you know, it's hard. It is hard because you know, your placing and your result can really depend on who else is in the lineup. Whereas if you've got 6 bodybuilders and one of them is absolutely peeled and full as a house, he wins. There's no doubt about it.
And I think it's that as well, isn't it? Looking at lineup, we're talking about the lineup as well. Like, it does differ in terms of how you show up and present yourself. It does matter who you stood against. You could nail it for your body, and I think people forget to pick that athlete up and look at the lineup that they've come up against, and rather than taking away the negatives, like, oh, she was criticized for being too big, she was criticized for being too lean, she was criticized for X, Y, and Z, be objective and look at the lineup as a whole and try it. And I can only imagine how difficult it is as a coach not to hone in on your own athlete, because you do care, of course you care,
of course,
but being objective enough to look at that lineup and be like, actually, on the day we did miss the mark, and not because we missed the mark with the athlete, but because we missed the mark in the lineup. That's 2 completely different things. And I mean, how do you find it differentiates, Jake, between sort of our regionals and the pro qualifiers? I know the Europe's a completely different scene altogether, but how do you manage that in terms of your clients' expectations as well going into these shows? Because the placings can change from last to first within a matter of weeks.
Absolutely.
Depending on that lineup. How do you manage that with your clients?
And you know, this isn't my set in stone rule that I'm about to explain here, but what I, to kind of from my experience and how I usually would tend to manage this, to me, I will, in most cases for bikini only, bring a client in probably 90% to 95% of where I think they should be in terms of perfect. Yeah. And then for me, when if we're talking the pro qualifiers within 2 to 3 weeks touching distance, for me, that further 10% most of the time will be £2 to £4.
Okay. Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
as a rule, yeah.
Okay.
So and that rule worked exactly with Marnie and
Mhm.
exactly with Emily, and genuinely, hand on heart, both of those two gals, and we use them because they're the pros that I have, so
Yeah.
they're good examples to use. I remember when I first took Emily on, I literally said to her, and she even put the message on Instagram in the August when I took her on, I was like, I'll make you pro in November. And it
Mhm.
happened. And
Mhm.
when I had the consultation with Marnie, I said to her, that it was in the November, and I think no, sorry, in the September, I think. And I said to her, next year I'll make you pro, because I just knew that it was there.
Yeah.
And although Emily did win the overall at her regional, we still come in £4 lighter for the pro qualifier. Paid
Mm.
off. Marnie was the same. And
Yeah.
Marnie didn't even win. She won her class, but she didn't win the overall.
No.
But that was never the goal. The goal was to always peak for the Ben Weeder. But I
Mm.
was like, I'm going to bring her in about where I said that 90 to
Yeah.
95% mark.
Mm.
And likelihood the feedback is going to be just be a little bit sharper and you'll be there. And that was the feedback, and obviously that's what happened. So for me, how I tend to play it is be 10% off for the regional, because then likelihood it is you're probably going to fit in with the lineup rightly at that stage.
Yeah.
And then when you're coming in for that pro qualifier, your likelihood is going to you're going to be that little bit sharper, which is going to be the difference between the caliber of athlete that you're up on stage against. Because it's highly unlikely you're going to do a regional, and it does happen, but it's highly unlikely you're probably going to do the regional and then be told that you need to be softer for the pro qualifier,
Yeah.
because the caliber of athlete that your likelihood to be against in the pro qualifier is going to be better.
Yeah.
And I know that better doesn't necessarily mean more conditioned, but in most cases, the better athlete will look more conditioned, even if they're not, based on the level of density and muscle
Muscularity.
that they're going to have,
Yeah.
muscularity for the pro qualifier.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I see it. And don't get me wrong, there'll be gals that will still do the pro qualifier even though they finish 5th and 4th in the regionals, but that's fine, because they won't be in the overall lineup where there's going to be 8 gals that are all going to be pretty good. So that tends to be where I kind of set the differences between the two. I will never really, the only time I will land someone 100% for the regional is if I know they're not going to do a pro qualifier after that. But I won't really waste peaking someone absolutely perfectly for the regional if I feel they're in the running for a pro card. Because also, once you nail that condition for the first show, trying to then hold it there for that 2-week period is way harder than just saying we've got 2 more weeks to dig in. That tends to be how I will approach it in most cases. And touch wood, for me, it has mostly paid off so far.
But this is the thing I was just going to ask you, like, have you ever been met with, I suppose, feedback in a show that you've been disappointed in? Obviously you said with Jasmine about the condition thing, but you can look back at that and say, right, yeah, that was fair, I agree on that. Have you ever been met with like feedback from a show where something has happened with an athlete and you've just not really understood or agreed with the judges on it?
Do you know what, Grace? I actually don't think so. And I think the thing is, I think we will all have our views on whether someone should have won or someone shouldn't have won. I think we'll always have that. Is there shows I've gone to where I thought that my athlete should have won over someone else? Yeah. But have I also gone to shows where I thought somebody else should have beaten my athlete and they haven't? Yeah. I'll always openly, I'm not a sore loser. I'll always openly say both hands, and especially with bikini. Because for me it's so subjective and opinionated that half the time there is no wrong or right. Whereas if it's bodybuilding, most of the time if you've got 5 guys on stage, you in most cases can pick the winner pretty easily. You can't with bikini. You just can't. Like it's very rare in a pro qualifier of 8 gals that it will be blatantly obvious who the winner is. Look at I don't know. I'm sorry, Sweden this weekend. I don't know if any of you watched it. So you had that. I think her name was like Carolina in a red bikini. You had Diamante, and then you had the gal that won our pro cards. From what I saw on the stream and from what like AJ Kelly and people were commentating, was the gal in the red was going to win.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and then I remember watching the stream, and I'm not just saying it, I thought Dee looked great. I think that's the best she's looked. I thought she looked like fantastic, and I thought she could have been in the running, and then someone else wins.
Someone
You
else.
know,
Yeah.
how many times have we all been to a pro qualifier, and then they've announced the winner, and we're like, oh,
Yeah, literally.
yeah,
Because I think the way that they judge it as well is like we from the UK, I think we're quite used to just assuming almost that if you're in the center, you're dead center, and then that's it, that's you done. But if you look at the way that the US judges judge the Olympia, for example, and the larger shows, they remove the person they know's won. They'll move them out of the
yeah,
way, and they'll compare second through to fifth or second through to
yeah,
sixth, or depending on what they're doing. And then even the confirmation rounds, they'll remove top three, top four. They'll get them out of the lineup, and they'll look at everybody else because they know who they're looking at,
yeah,
and or they've already made a decision. So I mean, obviously the pro qualifiers they are the close, and so are the professional sort of shows and things that you're watching, but they know who they're looking at. So
yeah.
it's always hard to predict it. And I think maybe that's where the anticipation and then the ultimate sort of drop of the disappointment comes from, because you're looking at your athlete going, yes, that's it, the dead center,
Yeah.
it's fine, they're there, and then it's not. I mean, from a like client management and expectation management as well, going into these shows, Jake, how do you manage expectations in terms of the client going in, and you're going in and they might be a little bit worried about being 10% off, or how do you manage that journey for the client as well in terms of psychologically prepping them for that?
Yeah, and Jade, I think for this, it differs with every athlete.
Yeah.
Depending on where they're at in their journey.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I've got, and I'll kind of talk through a different set of people, should we say. If you're a first timer, you know, and you're 8 weeks out, your goal as a first timer should be to get there. If you get there, that is an incredible achievement, because out of 100 people, 10 make it.
Yeah.
So as a first timer, if you can make it and look good, for me, that's your goal. Yeah. If you're going to come, so you've done your first timer, you're now coming back next year for your next season. Your next, let's just say in your first season, you didn't place. Yeah. Your second season is about, let's get in the running. Let's get a place in your open class. That's your next goal. You know, and if you're a first timer, you've got a place in your first show. The next goal is to try and beat that ultimately. I think the thing with bikini now is so popular. You know, for gals that competed 2 years ago, you know, you're coming into a raft of a whole load more gals now, with some phenomenal caliber. You know, I've got a first timer competing this year, and she's fantastic.
That Christy.
Yeah, like
she's nuts.
Fantastic. You know,
I can't believe she's a first timer.
Yeah. You know, nuts, and you know, but it's you, and I think, like, when I think about, you know, if you're somebody who's done a few shows and you get your placings here and there, I try and manage people in a way that the goal is to beat how we looked last time.
Yeah.
You know, that's the goal. You know, and then if we talk about an athlete who has been around a long time, they're winning at pro qualifiers, but they're not quite there. That's hard to manage.
Yeah.
Because it's the disappointment every time. You know, where it's like you're so close, but for me, the constant reminder of it's not if, it's just when.
Yeah.
And that, trying to manage that. And I know, you know, we're talking about bikini, but just to give an example, like Calvin, who I coach, 5 pro qualifiers last year. He got beat by the pro card winner in his class 5 times. You know, it's just so unlucky. But you know, so trying to manage that, that's probably the most difficult client to manage, I find, is the ones that are knocking, because it's just like you're just so close, and it's like I can't actually do anything more for you to make this more perfect. You just need to be in front of the right judge on the right day. And that's difficult to manage, and I find that hard to manage. And then if we look at the likes of Marnie and Emily as an example, for me, for those, it's about, you know, I feel like we go back to where I said about, you know, we've just done a show or two. It's about beating the look. You know, and the thing I keep saying to Marnie this year, let's just throw ourselves in the deep end. We'll go and do 3 or 4 shows, and let's just get some feedback.
Yeah.
Because we just don't know. We've not been in front of these judges before. You know, and she was in front of Tyler in Pittsburgh and New York, but also, you know, she was 8 months into dieting at this point.
Yes,
You know,
different
it was
for
nowhere near going to be her best look.
Mm.
You know, so we've had some time off, we've grown some muscle. Let's throw you in and let's just see how we do. You know, like, you know, I'm not sitting here like trying to, you know, of course the goal is to qualify for the Olympia, but we just don't know. We could go there and they go, yeah, here's a win, you're perfect, in you go. They could go, you know, you need more muscle. They could go, you need this. You know, and until, I think when you're at the pro standard, until you throw yourself in, you just don't know. You know, and I said to Emily, obviously, you know, getting a 5th in the Benwida last year, unbelievable achievement. You
massive.
know, for Emily, like, and I said to her, you know, of course the goal is to beat that this year, but the goal actually is just to look better than that time, because we can't control the placing at this point. All we can do is know that we've done better and we look better. And, you know, by logic, that should result in a better placing. But also, you know, there was 20 other girls that fell behind her in that show that could have been off, that could come in and be on the money. So it's just about, most of the time for me, it's about trying to manage people to just focus on being better than the last time you stepped on stage. And that's a win, in my opinion. But that's easy for me to say, because an athlete will always want to have a better placing and a better medal, which is hard. But ultimately, it's about being better. And especially for bikini, because it's so subjective. We can be better, but it doesn't mean that because we're better, we're going to get a better result.
And like you said, it's becoming more popular, and the caliber of athletes just getting better and better every year. You have people like Kirsty coming in, like dark horses. You're like, oh shit, didn't know she was there.
Scary, honestly.
It's happening all of the time. You're just getting freaks left, right, and center who haven't even been competing for long, and they're getting their pro card. Like,
well, Grace, look at the gal that won the Benwida. She's 21
years old.
How do you have that level of muscle at 21 years old?
15 months as well. It took her 15 months between stage appearances at 21 years old. That girl's got the best part of it. I mean, how old's Ashley Colt was? I think she's in her 30s.
Mid-30s.
This girl's got 10 years to do some damage, and she's done it in 15 months.
I mean, you just can't predict that. Like, you can prep all you want and absolutely aim for your best, and this is not like tearing anybody down, but there's going to be people coming up in the ranks. You just can't expect.
Somebody's
got to control it.
Somebody's got to come last as well. And like, I'm speaking from experience. I've placed first, I've placed dead last. Like, I've placed last more than I've placed first, put it that way. And somebody has to. And I think it's important, especially because of how popular bikini is now, in terms of it is an access level sport, in terms of or access level division. People seem to forget about that as well. Like, it's okay to get it wrong. It's okay to come in and look new and look fresh. Like, not everybody's going to come in with freaky genetics and blow people out of the water, or have 10 years background in terms of training and have dense, like, secure sort of bedded in muscle. You're okay to come in and be new at it, be fresh. And I think that's a huge challenge for athletes nowadays, not so much like 5, 6, 8 years ago. Now it's as widespread as it is. Now it's as public as it is because of social media and stuff like that. What challenges do you think we're up against, Jake, from not even just from a first timer standpoint, but as bikini athletes now, having access to what we have, whether that be protocols, information being shared, pressures around using enhancement, all of that interplay? What do you think challenge wise we're up against?
I think it's an absolute minefield, Jade.
Glad you agree.
Honestly, I think just before we go into that, I think just something you just said, which just made me want to just elaborate this as well. Like, what's mad, right, is bikini is an entry level class.
Yes.
But it is the most difficult.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is wild. That's wild to think that. Like, you know, you don't as a footballer, you know, go into a team and start in the conference, and that's the most difficult. Like, you literally the entry level class is the most difficult to nail. Don't get me wrong. Like, of course, you know, get into a women's figure physique. Most women will never ever achieve that. I'm not talking in terms of the level of hard work and the level of discipline, but like, you know, an entry level, you know, you go into a show and you go and do figure, there's going to be 3 or 4 girls in the show. You go into bikini as a natural first timer, and all of a sudden you turn up and there's 33 girls in your class.
Yes.
You know, that's fucking
Literally.
mental. That's absolutely, it's crazy. So although we talk about it being an entry level, it's an entry level at the most difficult. And that's why I think a lot, for any gals that are new to the sport, like, should really listen to when I say that, because you shouldn't be disheartened by the fact that if you do walk in and you do finish second call outs or third call out in a lineup of 33, that means you're no good for the sport, because it doesn't.
No.
Because it's entry level, but it's so difficult. You know, and Jade, you also said something about yourself. You finished first and you finished last.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So again, it just shows, you know, sometimes it can be a great day, sometimes it can be a bad
It was
day.
within a week.
Yeah.
I placed first and then second to last within a week.
And that's it's a good point. I always, when I've talked about stuff like this in the past, I always remember Charlotte Ellis.
Yeah.
She did poor. I remember seeing her in Portugal, and I hope I don't get this wrong if she does listen, but I'm sure she finished 7th in Portugal, and then 3 weeks later she wins her pro card.
Yeah.
You know, it's wild. And I think, and Sammy Minchell as well. She finished. I think
Sammy
she finished
Minchell literally was coming
third in her
in the regional. She didn't even get luck in. I don't even think they wanted, which is mad. And then
wins her class in. And I would actually say, out of every pro qualifier I've been to for bikini, that Portugal day that Sammy won, was probably the most competitive lineups of bikini I've ever seen. You know, and then she turns up. Well, I know she got third in the overall, but she beat loads of girls, but then didn't win a regional here. You know, so when I come back to that point about the entry level, like, you shouldn't, for the girls that do listen to this, like, if you don't have necessarily a good first run, don't think that you're not made for the sport or this isn't for you. Like, you know, you need to get in front of a few different judges, you know, and bring a few different looks, you know. And you then, you know, until you've really had a few shows, then you'll start to realize whether you actually are good or not. But but coming back to what you said, Jade, so I think it's an absolute minefield. You know, I feel like I can't sit on here and just be like, you know, my way is the right way. At the end of the day, everyone has got their own protocols and everyone has got their own way of doing things. You know, and like I said to you, how I would have done something 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, it is very different to also how I would do things now. And I'm sure I could have the same conversation in 2 years' time and be saying the same thing. But I think I really do think it's an absolute minefield. And I think the problem you've got now is you've got inexperienced people that don't have the right level of knowledge, ultimately giving out terrible advice. I had a gal message me off the back of a reel I did the other day where I was talking about the usages of T3 and T4. You know, she had an inexperienced coach who had basically had her on it for literally for years, even through off-season T3. You know, and she's got Hashimoto's now. You know, and it's not an uncommon story. You know, I've heard it 2 or 3 times now. You know, so it's just through people, you know, people hear some, you know, a coach will hear, oh, this person's given this to this gal, so that means I can do that. You know, and it's just a recipe for disaster.
Scary.
It really is scary. I know we've spoken about it offline, Jade, a lot of the time. Like, you know, I'm getting some gals that are coming to me now where, you know, they are first timers and some of them have not even competed yet, you know, and I'm looking at these protocols and I'm like, where is this coming from? Like, do you realize the implications of doing it? And like, the problem is, I think, you know, the athlete has to take some responsibility as well. You know, I think a lot of coaches do get hammered for it. And, you know, I probably do hammer coaches more for it on my Instagram. And I don't necessarily hammer coaches, but what I'm trying to do is raise awareness around some of the things that are happening now and trying to back up what I'm saying to evidence that, like, this shouldn't be done and this is why it shouldn't be done. You know, but you've just got some crazy stuff going on, and I think a lot of the time gals will go, you know, I want to win, I want to be in that bikini and I want to win, so I'm prepared to do whatever it takes. And someone will go make a joke and say, you know, yeah, you'll probably have a dick in a few years, and they go, ha ha ha. Is that no,
but that's true.
no, we're not joking. Like, this isn't a funny joke. Like, this is no joke, you
No.
know, or, you know, like you're going to sound like a man soon. And then, you know, a year later, you see that same gal talking on Instagram and you're like, oh, fuck. That's happened. That's, you know, and I think what a lot of coaches are doing is they'll just go, yes, you know, 10 milligrams Anavar, that's nothing. Here you go, have 10 milligrams of Anavar. And, you know, they've done their regional, which is in 10 weeks time, and they've decided to do a pro qualifier 2 weeks later and another 2, and then next thing you know, they've been on Anavar for 4 months straight, you know, and it's like, oh, fuck, you know, and then, it's just carnage. And I just think that not enough people are raising enough awareness for what is going on right now. And Rob put up a really good reel yesterday, RF Rob, you know, where he's seeing coaches that are talking all over Instagram saying about how important it is for their clients to do their blood work. And then me and Rob have had conversations offline where these coaches that are saying it's important to get their blood work, we then get some of their clients, and their clients have said they've never done any blood work. You know, and they're using PEDs, females using PEDs at high dosages. Without any usage, without, you know, doing any blood work after they've run the cycle, you know, or anything like that. So it is rife at the moment. I think it's the worst it's ever been. And, you know, I remember years back you'd hear gals that, you know, they've been given some Winstrol to take and stuff, and them things are kind of probably fading a bit now. But now you're just getting excessive amounts of all sorts of stuff, left, right, and center. And most coaches will not even know why they're giving it. They're just giving it because they've heard somewhere else that someone else is doing it, and they think that's the right thing to do, rather than actually educating themselves around what is this drug actually going to do and why am I deploying it. You know, that I think that's the big thing for me a lot of the time, is the why. Why are you deploying it? Like, what are you seeing in this individual that is suggesting you need to deploy this drug? You know, I could say stories all day.
I do think a lot of it is, or I think you're right in saying it, but a lot of it is the responsibility of the client as well. And in these days, like the athletes, it is a whatever it takes kind of job, because there's just, we talk about on podcasts, like it's everywhere. Bikini is everywhere. There's more on YouTube, there's more on Instagram, you know, you're seeing all, and people want that, the glamour, they want the validation, and so they're like, I'll do whatever it takes, not knowing whatever it takes, the toll that's going to take, they just don't consider it.
And I think that's, Grace, I think that it is a big thing. Like, it really is. People do need to take responsibility, because, you know, it's all right that, you know, I can sit here and say, like I say, that, you know, coaches do this and coaches do that, but, you know, to back us up here as well, you know, you will have people that will take these dosages that they've put it inside them, they are happy to continue, they're happy to take this, you know, and then 6 months down the line, when they've got these side effects that they did know about but that they didn't care about at that time, but now they've decided to give up bodybuilding, or you know, or they've just decided that they don't, and they've got some kind of side effect that's now come with it, you know, and then all of a sudden they will then, you know, be like, oh, he did this, or he heard that she did this, or this coach did this, and it's like, okay, you could argue that you know, you put all your trust into that coach, absolutely, but also like, you know, if your coach told you to go and jump off a cliff, you wouldn't do it. So you know, you should check out what you're actually doing prior to also making that decision as well.
And I always say, like,
sorry Jake, sorry Jake, sorry Grace, just to echo before you go, Grace, what you've got to understand as well, listening to this, is that it doesn't matter what you're deploying into your body versus the next person versus the next person. You can have a list of side effects. Doctors have to give you side effects and like a list. It's like the list of doom. If you went in for routine surgery, here are all the things that can go wrong. Just because it's listed on there doesn't mean it's necessarily going to happen to you, but equally doesn't mean that it's not going to happen to you in the worst kind of way. So the degree in which you could be affected by any kind of side effect will change from one person to the next. So
Totally.
you can take that into consideration and be like, oh yeah, this might happen, that's absolutely fine. But if you're thinking about deploying these things and you're working with a coach and they've suggested X, Y, and Z, you honestly need to put yourself in the worst case scenario and ask yourself whether you're going to be okay with that.
Yeah,
Whether
absolutely.
you're going to be okay with physiological changes, whether you're going to be okay with not being able to reproduce naturally, whether you're going to need to go down IVF one day or have permanent hormone replacement because of the choices that you've made. You might be in your 20s, you might not be thinking about family or anything like that, but I strongly believe that from an athlete standpoint, it's not just about weighing up the pros and cons of the potential side effects and thinking about them as potentials, but put yourself in a position where everything's happening in the worst possible way. If you're happy being there, crack on.
Yeah, do you know what? A great story. Was you going to go then?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry,
I was just going to say,
right.
no, Jade,
I went
you're
straight in.
you're absolutely bang on, because you will get, and if we flip it on the male side as an example, you can get a guy who will take a gram of test and they get no gyno. You can get somebody who takes half that and they get gyno. It's different individual. You probably have had gals that have run Anavar for 12 plus weeks, or they've run Primo for 12 plus weeks and have seen no sides. But then you may have someone that can run it for 8 weeks on a lower dosage and they get sides. So it's totally the good point. And I think for the listeners, the people that are new to the sport and potentially going to start the usage of PEDs, what you've said, Jade, is fantastic there, in the sense of these are the worst possible side effects. Are you prepared for these to happen? And you know what, Jade, if, like you said, if you are, crack on. Because actually, do you know what, like, if you are somebody, as an example, who is a fantastic pro athlete, and you have the capability to go to the O, and that's your dream, and as a result of that, you're prepared to accept some of the side effects that come with you getting to the Olympia, do you know what, I don't think there's nothing wrong with that.
No, because it's individual choice.
There's nothing wrong with it if you're happy with those side effects.
Either. Exactly.
And you could argue, if you are at somebody who's at the top level of your sport, top level of the sport, that can go all that way, like, is that potentially worth it for you as an individual? Yeah, 100%. It could well be. Absolutely. But I think it's taking that step back and actually being realistic, and like you say, these are what could come with this, and you just need to be aware of this before you start to implement what we're implementing, because
take ownership for it. Because I think where it becomes difficult for athletes is where they not necessarily, well, we know misinformation exists. So we know misinformation exists like across the board, not just in deployment of performance enhancement, but just across the board in terms of, it can be, oh, you've got all the genetics in the world, you're going to absolutely smash this show, you're going to win, they get on stage, they don't win, they come away, they're absolutely flattened. So the misinformation, it can be coaching protocols, it can be deployment of like cardio and things like that. There's so many things that can be wrong in a coach's delivery, but then from an athlete standpoint as well, like, I just don't think that you should ever take away your culpability in that process, because it's a two-way street. Like, it's like ownership, any relationship. It's a two-way street. And I think from a challenge standpoint for athletes, I think in bikini especially, I think because it's an entry level, and you quite rightly said it's a difficult entry level division, but because it's more accessible in terms of turning pro now, and your exposure to actually what you're seeing and what the athletes that you get to see, who you get to see up there, what they look like. You get to see snippets of their prep and their bodies, and that's all on social media now. I think the expectation level for athletes, I don't know whether you agree, both of you, but I think the expectation now to actually achieve these kind of goals in the sport is heightened. Therefore, the degree in which an athlete's prepared to commit themselves to do that is higher. So slowly but surely, everything's doing this, and it's shuffling up the ladder, and people are taking bigger risks. They're taking...
That's what I'm going to say. Like, they're taking them faster as well. And it's not like a slow process going into it, and you can't rush bikini, and you can't rush the process of taking PDs, because you're just going to look absolutely ridiculous on stage. You're just going to look like a massive massive bodybuilder. And
Lump
this
of
is why,
muscle.
like, you look at a lump of muscle and you look at like, you see them on the Olympia stage, like, they obviously they are genetic elite, but they have spent time
Tons. So
sculpting that tissue,
Grace, this is
very
bang
long
on.
time. And I say it
Yeah.
all the time, like, because these people who, like, there's very, very rare there's that athlete that looks great in a short amount of time, but most of it, it's like, it's been a very, very long time. Kirsty
Yeah.
Taylor, obviously, I know she is quite muscular, but like, she got her
She's
pro
been
card
around
that was
for a long
long. She's
time.
been around for a long time. Marnie, another
Yeah.
example, a long time.
Yeah.
It hasn't been rushed, and there's so many people, and it's like, right, 2 years you're competing and you're on all of
Yeah.
these PTs.
And
See it all the
Grace,
time.
do you know what, this is such a good point, because when you look at the girls like Kirsty and Marnie as an example, they've been around for years, but when you look at them, they have dense
Yeah.
quality muscle. It's
Yeah.
quality, right? If you've got a gal who 2 years ago looked like a string bean and
Yeah.
now she is too big for bikini,
Yeah.
you're too far. It will look shit. It will
Yeah.
not look like good muscle. You know, if you've gone from not being big enough to then like completely outgrowing the cast in 2 years' time, you've done something pretty badly wrong at that point. And most of the time you will not get rewarded for that because it just won't look right.
No.
It's like
you know,
dispersed wrong or something. Yeah.
yeah, and I think you'll see what I tend to find a lot of the time, and I'd see this not just in females, in males as well, but it's definitely, I think, shows in the females, is not only from a muscular standpoint, but what I tend to find is the excessive pushing that they've done over that period ruins the look in their physique in terms of their midsection, their waist.
Yeah.
There's you see that the midsection is just blown out, and that would have been through excessive amounts of food in the off season. You know, not being able to digest what they're eating, trying to rush the process, like Grace said, taking too many pads. It ruins the whole look. You know, because what you're doing is you're pushing your body way more than it wants to try and get there quicker.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, it will be detrimented. Rather than taking the time to actually, it's not taking the time to build muscle. I tend to use the word from bikini. It's about refining the look.
Yeah.
It's about refining. It's not just about growing big delts and big glutes. It's about the overall look that you're going to bring to that stage. And like, you know, as I say, the amount of gals that you see on stage now with distorted midsections as a result of
the lower back and the erectors, like you said, heavy off seasons, really heavy training in combination with the drugs, and the muscles that you don't want to build are building.
This is it, exactly. And I put a reel up about this the other day. And again, you know, there is exceptions to the rules in some of the things I say, of course, but for a majority, I said about people pulling from the floor. Like I'm seeing gals, you know, I'm seeing gals deadlift from the floor. You know, and like when I put that up, like Leonie West, she commented and said about Amy does it, and that's the exception to the rule, you know.
But these girls are like
they're genetic freaks,
genetic elite that aren't going to respond in a way that is typical to everybody else, and you can't pitch yourself. Nobody's doing Laura Lee's workout.
So it's Amy Delgado we're talking about.
Amy Delgado.
She also doesn't train for 3-4 months of the year.
No.
So it's
like she spends 8 months of the year in prep.
Exactly.
You know, but yeah, so there was exceptions to the rule, but like you know, I've had gals that have come to me from other coaches and you know, I'll say, can I just see like what you've been doing? And then I'm like, deadlifts, and they've got a pull day. I'm like, you want to be NPC bikini, right? Why are you pulling from the floor, and why have you got a whole day dedicated to back? Like, you know, there's just no logic behind it. And exactly like you just said, Grace, you know, building thick erectors. So what we've now done is we've blasted peds, we've built thick erectors, we've had poor digestion to our guts.
Massive biceps, probably in traps as well.
You're all gone by then. Everything,
like,
it's gone because you've been trying to master this look for bikini or get there quicker. But what you've now created is you've not actually, you know, you've not created a look that's now wellness.
No.
Because it's not there. It's not right for bikini, and it's not that necessarily maybe you've got too big. You've just blown the look to a point where it just doesn't look right. And although the bikini look and the wellness look is different, very different, obviously, but
the shape's the same. The shape's the same.
Yeah, you're still looking for, you know, you don't want a big blown out midsection. You don't want a big erector. Like you don't want that. You're still looking for the similar attributes. You're just looking for a far more muscular look in the wellness division,
Yeah.
but you're still
Yeah.
looking for the feminineness, the tiny waist. This isn't changing.
The S shape's exactly the same. Like wellness to bikini, the only thing you're changing is the level and
Of
volume
muscle.
of muscle on
Yeah.
the lower section of your body. That is it. Still flow. I mean, look at, I always say her name, Francine,
Yeah.
who's won the Olympia multiple years.
Yeah.
She is stunning
Yeah.
as well. Like, look at all the other side effects and the factors that you're taking into consideration. They want a feminine body. They want a feminine. It used to be like beach body, didn't it? It used to be that fitness look, like that fresh off the beach, like lovely silhouette. Like that is still the overriding goal.
Yeah.
Packing on a ton of muscle is not, has never been the goal. It's not
It's
the
not
goal.
the
When
goal.
did it
No.
become the goal?
Never. And I think, like we say, when we talk about, if we just use some of the UK bikini pros that we have, like, don't get me wrong, there is a few that are exceptions to the rules, as I keep saying, but you look at people like, we use Marnie, we use Emily, we use Kirsty, we use
Phoebe
Leonie, we use Phoebe, we use Heather. Like all of these gals, they've been competing in bikini for 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, even some of the gals that are even amateur that are still have not quite got their pro card, Diamante,
Anya Limber,
and these gals have been knocking on the door. I remember first seeing Anya in 2018. Phenomenal, fantastic. She was ready for a pro card then, like,
and she's still going.
She's still going, like, but these gals have got, they've got this good quality muscle because it's not been a rushed process. Like, there's no pros, I don't think off the top of my head, UK pros that have come in, got their pro card within a year or two.
I think the only one that comes to mind is Sam Minsell, but she has a training, and she had a training background. She was a PT before, and she had a training background.
But also, she's natty.
Yeah, exactly. She's natty. Yeah, well, in terms of there's been nobody that's like looked like they've bullied the muscle on. Almost that they just
Nobody's been the point and case. Like, nobody's documented this and proven that it's a win, a dead win if you do it. So I don't I mean, is it a lack of patience, Jake? Do you think? Do you think it's because of the exposure that the sport's got now? Do you think it's a case of people come in and they see the likes of Sam without any context to the actual situation? They see Sam come in and she got a pro card in a second season, and they think it's more achievable. Do you think it?
I think so. I think it's lack of impatience. And I think it comes down to also, I think coaches think we need more muscle, so we just push hard. We push, because ultimately as coaches we want results, right? We want results quickly. Of course we do. Like, ultimately this is what pays our bills, right?
Business is built on it.
If I've got a girl who's really good, like, I don't want to wait 3 years for her to get her pro cards, but I'm also not going to push her to the point where I'm going to fuck up her physique. So
all the rest.
So I think it comes down to impatience. I think it comes down to coaches to an element, and the athlete kind of, I don't know if greedy is the right word, but probably greedy, and again, greedy. And I think you look at the caliber of athletes as well that some coaches will have, like, if you're a coach who has got 30 people, but you've got 2 really, really good people who, if they turn pro, are going to accelerate your business, your brain is probably going to go, I need to just push them and just get whatever I can because they're the face of me. They're the face of my business. And I need them to succeed. And I think then you end up almost like overstepping the mark and just going too far with it. And the health risks and detriment and the whole look as well that comes with that, right?
Well, this is it. It's you're pushing it too much physically, but also psychologically as well with the client. Like, you might, like what you said not that long ago, like they could then reach the end of their career because of the experience, and then it's like, okay, right, so you've achieved nothing.
You've got a pro card, and that's it, and they're not a pro anymore.
Or even just like, you've ruined your physique, but now they're just kind of traumatized from the prep itself, and they're dealing with all of these hormonal issues, and they don't ever compete again, so they don't see it through.
Absolutely, hormonal issues and potential PED side effects that are not reversible.
They don't go away.
You've hammered it for 2 years to get this pro card. You've now been told you're way too far and you're nothing to do with the class, and you're left with a whole bunch of side effects, a whole bunch of hormonal issues because you've just been chasing and you're done.
And a client as well that's completely disconnected from the sport then, like from an identity standpoint, they've been poured into and poured into and poured into to the point where they've gone too far, got it wrong, and now what? They're not anything anymore. And in your own mind, as well as an athlete, and you've embodied everything, you've taken all the feedback from your coach and everybody's bullying you up, and you've got to this point and then crash. The psychological impacts of that on the person, we forget these are people. Take the athlete side out of it. Grace and I are so passionate about the fact that we've both been through things in and out of bodybuilding that have affected our input into bodybuilding and output from bodybuilding, and fundamentally you're a person. Like, how much is this sport really taking from you? Like, are you honestly prepared to spend that much to make it work?
Well, and also, we won't obviously name any names, but how many girls do you know that were very, very good athletes in the sport that now absolutely despise it?
Oh, hundreds.
Yeah.
Well, this is what I said. It's about their experience, and I can honestly say I did have a good experience with all of my coaches, and that's why I look back on my preps so fondly. And I'm so passionate about it. But it's what people go through. I've seen it. You've seen time. We've been in this game a while. Like, you see people come and go, and you're like, that is a shame. That is a shame because of what they went through.
That's exactly it, Grace. That's when you say it, like, that's a shame. I can see it even on your face when you say it. Like, genuinely it is.
Because I look back on my preps so far. Yes, they're difficult, but I never ever was pushed the way other girls were, and hearing what some people were taking. Even stories. Like, I suppose with you, Jake, like what you said about your level of communication, and I always got that, and it's like the support that some people really lack on their preps. And even post show, it's honestly gutting, because they never enjoy the sport, and they end up hating it and stuff. So
it's wild, Grace. Honestly, pretty much I would say 8 out of 10 consultations I have now, the reason they've left that person is because there's just no support. And honestly, do you know what? Like, I'll happily say, I'll give away, I genuinely believe my secret to success with bikini girls is the level of support I give.
I can vouch for this.
I swear to you, honestly.
I can vouch for this.
I honestly, like, I'm not blowing up. That is what makes me as good as that. Genuinely, most people can diet someone to stage. If you're a coach and you've got a good enough knowledge, you can do that. But from a female standpoint, the most important thing to manage with the females is the headspace. Honestly, you are all absolutely relentless when it comes to hard work. The gals piss all over the guys. I'm telling you now, right? You turn around to a gal and tell her you got to do an hour on the stairs. They don't even bat an eyelid. With gals, it is not a problem of you need to starve, you need to fucking do hours of cardio. Every single one of you just goes, yeah, cool, no worries. That is not what you have to manage with a female. What you have to manage is the headspace, the hormone. That is the most important thing for me. And I honestly, I swear that's why I have success like I do. Because genuinely, what girls need is they just need that level of support from a headspace perspective, and the rest just responds. Genuinely, like, if they don't get the support, the succession doesn't come there. You get the support, their body responds. And like, genuinely, that I believe that is my key to success with this. 100%. Is just the level of support that I will give to the gals at any time.
It's the dialogue. It's the like, speaking on from a client standpoint, it's the dialogue around the training and the diet. The diet and the training is probably 10% of what we speak about, Jake.
It is.
It really, really is 10% of what we speak about, as long as everything's getting ticked and boxes are getting ticked. But if there's one that's missing, that conversation isn't about the box. It's about what's going on around the box.
I don't need to have I don't even ask you if you've stuck to your foods.
No.
I don't even ask you. You most of the time you just tell me, but I don't ever need to ask you, like, or I don't need to ask you if you've done your training. Because that's not what that's not. And it's common amongst all the gals. Like, you're not gonna miss if you're missing the gym. I know you're missing the gym for a fucking very good reason, and I know that reason you're missing it, to me, in every case is going to be an acceptable reason for you to miss it, because I know there's no way you're going to.
Yeah.
And it would be the same. It would be the same with Grace. I know you are not going to miss a session when you go to the gym. You're just not going to miss it. I don't need to ask you if you've done all your sessions, because the girls don't miss the boxes that are the do boxes. That's not the thing you have to manage. What you have to manage outside of that is the headspace around whatever else is going on in their life at that time, or even self-doubt, or that's what has to be managed the most, I think, amongst the females, rather than the actual ticking of the bits that you find easy.
That's how much trust, I say this all the time, it's how much trust we place in you to get us to our goals and our health. And a lot of the time you're the only person really in that, like, you're the most supportive person in that network, really. Like, parents might not be, friends might not be, other people might not really be as involved. Like, you have the biggest input there in that client's success. So and
you need to know that you can reach out to me at any point and tell me what you need to. And it ultimately, a lot of the time with the girls, you just need to offload. And once you've offloaded, cool, we're good. Like,
I'm just thinking of all the voice notes that
we can chat it through. But Grace, jokes aside,
here's me at 10:30 last night. Jake, I need your help.
Help me.
But jokes aside though, Grace, I remember, not in detail, but I remember there was a time when I was voice noting you when I was walking through London. And I remember we was voice noting back and forth, and like, you were stressed, and then literally by the end of it, you was like, oh, I feel so much better now. Like, and for you,
even our conversation in the gym the other week, I know it sounds mad, but we were talking just about like body image, like the most, like, well, not the most simple thing, but like a few things that you said, I was like, I felt so good after.
But I'm not like, the thing is, I'm not intentionally saying something, just like, I'll say it because I mean it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not, you know, but that's the key part, in my opinion, from a bikini and the gal standpoint, is, you know, it's the doubt part that you've got to manage, or it's just for you being able to be comfortable and offloading, because ultimately, as soon as you can do that, you relax, there's no stress, there's no water retention. The next day you check in, you get a good check-in. Ultimately, if you don't feel you can offload and you hold that stress, and like you said, Grace, you've got no one else to talk to, you hold on to that, you have a sleepless night, you wake up, you're a kilo up. I've now got to deal with the fact that you're a kilo up and you're even more stressed now. So we've carried the stress from the day before because you don't feel like you can offload. And you're now carrying the stress about the fact that you're holding water as a result of the fact that you've stressed about that. So now I've got double whammy to deal with. Whereas actually, if you're comfortable with your coach to offload and tell them anything you want, I've nipped that stress in the bud. Like it is, you're going to get a good night's sleep. We get a good check-in tomorrow, and bang, we're back on the right path.
Yeah. Because that breakdown of communication, like you said, Jake, like, I've been in both situations, and I remember coming to you for a consult call and being like, this is it. Like, I don't care what you make me do, like gym wise, diet wise, I can get all that done. But if I can't communicate with you, I know the damage. I know when that breaks down, it just stops. It crumbles everything. It's a foundation of everything.
Well, yeah, and Jade, like you said, like, how often do we actually really talk about the gym? We don't really.
We don't unless I've got a PB and I want to show up.
but then like, how many times have we also said on check-in, like, fucking hell, like, how this food you're eating, and you're just responding like mad, you're just not,
because
you're like,
psychologically I'm safe.
Exactly. You're like, I'm never on this much food. Like, usually I'd be like fat and gaining at this point, and it's like, I'd be going for an off-plan meal, and I'd look at a 2 kilo fluctuation within a day. And at this moment in time, I'm ramming in off-plan food and keeping everything the same. And my body composition hasn't changed for 4 months. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a prime example. That's a prime example of just managing the right variables with the individuals, and it has to be different for everyone. You know, like, you know, I treat everybody the same. But the way I might help Grace may be very different to the way I might help you. You know, and it takes a good coach to be able to identify where does that client need you the most, and then give them that level of support that they need. You know, you can treat everyone the same. You know, you don't have I don't have my favorites. You know, ultimately, I just work through my WhatsApp list from the bottom up to the top. You know, that's just, you know, but everyone has a need. You know, and you have to be able to, as a coach, adapt and cater to their needs. You know, some people do need more support than others.
Yeah.
You know, where some people don't, and you just have to be able to adapt to each of the individuals. And I think from a female standpoint, that is where it's very, very different to coaching males. Males don't need more support for you to hold their hand. You know, all they want you to do is just not give them more cardio.
Yeah,
I couldn't care.
Or more drugs.
Yeah. Or they just say, "Can I have more tren?"
Yeah, literally.
You know what I mean? That's what they do.
It's the wonder you're still standing, Jake, with us lot, honestly.
No, Jade, honestly though, Jade, I genuinely say it, like I actually, I would say I 60-40 do prefer coaching gals.
Yeah.
Like into show, gals, post show guys. Gals are
makes
hard.
A lot of sense.
Gals post show are harder to deal with than men.
Yeah.
Whereas gals are easier in, and the reason for that is gals going in, getting smaller, they love. Guys going in, getting smaller, they hate. The aftermath, gals getting bigger, they hate. Guys getting bigger, they love. And that's the difference. Gals are easier in a prep. They're harder on the way out.
Yeah.
Guys are easier, harder on the way in, but easier on the way out.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's the difference. I find most of the time.
Yeah.
So as a rule, for most people, the gals are a bit easier because you've got a longer prep than a longer post show almost. So overall, I'd say from start to off season, I spend more time with the gal in prep, so it's easier for than it is to manage the guys. I find guys moan too much. They moan, "Oh, more
we don't
cardio,
either.
Or, I'm starving. I need more food." Whereas you're like, "Oh, just
I live on dust."
Gals will be like, "Oh, just take away my oats and my Rice Krispie squares." Like, no, I don't need to take both today.
I'm just like, cardio every day, an hour, no problem. Like, I happily do cardio every day.
Yeah. I can honestly say I don't think I've ever had a guy go to you cardio every day. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I just suggested it to you.
You're like, yeah, go on. I'll do more. And that is the difference between the both, I think.
Oh, gas. And on that note, you probably have 1,000,001 voice messages to get back to.
Some of them are mine.
The phone's not too bad, actually. I've probably got 15 messages.
I had a therapy session before I came on, so we're all right. It's done.
Yeah. Well, honestly, Jake, this was such an incredible conversation.
Yeah,
like,
really
we could chat for hours and hours and hours. I feel like we should do like a live one day, just chat to Jake. But where can everybody find you? I know a lot of your clients do actually listen to this, so shout out to them. I think you have a great team. I know you're doing like a team meetup soon, but if anybody wants to join your business, I know you've got the lifestyle coaching as well. Do you want to give it a little plug?
Yeah, cool. So my personal Instagram is jakewatts_amp. And then I have amplified_nutrition, which is my competitive coaching business. And then for anyone that does listen, like you say, that also is looking for lifestyle coaching, I also have a lifestyle club lifestyle business. So and if anyone off the back of this podcast as well has got any questions or anything they want to just drop me a message and ask me, like, more than happy to help out. My inbox is always open. But genuinely, like, if I've said anything on this podcast when people are listening and they want a second opinion on, or they just want to ask me my thoughts on anything, by all means, just drop me a message.
And that's how I initially got started with you, is just like a conversation in DMs and how helpful you were. So like, if anybody is listening and something kind of hit home with them, like, do reach out. I think it feels so beneficial.
And thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I know we've been saying it for a while, so
it was about time.
It has been time.
It was
awesome.
Class. Thank
you so much.
No props. Right, both. I'll speak to you both in about an hour.